Hello, everyone. Today I'm so excited because I have a very special guest in today's interview. But first, let me tell you something. If you are a procrastinator, like a good one, like me, or if you tried all the to-do apps that are in the world and they're all good, but there is always something missing, then you must stick with today. Today, I'm interviewing the amazing Christina, who is the founder and creator of Amazing Marvin. If you have never heard about Amazing Marvin, then stick with it. It's the best to-do app that exists in the world. I've started to use it and I'm already more productive. And I tell you, I am somebody who has not one, but 8 to-do apps on my phone. But now since Amazing Marvin, I'm slowly bringing all my stuff into Amazing Marvin and deleting the apps. Off you go. Bye-bye Todoist. Bye-bye Anydo. Bye-bye Tick Tick, which are great apps. Don't get me wrong, but Amazing Marvin is better. So, and if you want to check out what's this Amazing Marvin, you can check in the description. There is a referral link where I can give you an extra month on the free month that they already give you. So if you want 2 months of for free to check it out, check the link. So welcome, Christina.
Hi, Janine. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Hi,
it's
everyone.
it's my honor. I truly love your project. Your software is amazing. So tell me a
Thank
bit.
you.
You're also an expert in procrastination because would you like to share a bit?
Well, what makes one an expert? It's probably because you've been a procrastinator your whole life. I remember procrastinating, in first grade and then panicking in the bed. Oh my God, I have this test tomorrow. I haven't studied. It's just, something that I struggle with and I've struggled with for a really long time. And I think if you try to solve a problem, because it's such a big problem for you, a lot of people become experts at things. I've read a ton of books and research because I just really started to realize at some point how much it messes up, your life and in so many areas. Because what is procrastination? It's ultimately an inability to truly control what you do, your actions. It's some kind of disconnect between your intent of what you want to do and your ability to actually do it. And so it's going to make it harder to reach your dreams, to create the life that you want. And it's just a very big issue in people's lives when they have sort of a personality or a habit of procrastinating. And that was definitely me. And in some ways still is me. Because when you've had a tendency or habit for so long, it is something that, it's just something that can crop up again and again. And so you have to stay on top of it and always use all the tools that are available so that you can get a handle on it. And that's also how I created Marvin out of this problem I had myself. And at some point I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yes, yeah, because you self-sabotage yourself. And I know because I am one as well, and I used to be much worse. It just, like, also, Christina has made an ebook that you can find if you go on the website. It's for free and gives some amazing tips on what to do about procrastination. And you have done a lot of research, like you have asked all your friends and people you knew how they beat procrastination or what procrastination make to them, right? Correct? If I remember well.
I talk a lot to people about procrastination because, so Marvin, at first, we were kind of positioning the app as the two app for procrastinators. That was sort of like the angle. And we had certain features in it that were specifically aimed at that procrastination habit. Now I think Marvin has become sort of much more than that. A lot of people especially see it as just a really customizable app. But still, I think because that was sort of the core of it, and because I've created it for myself, and that is my issue, that is so deeply ingrained in the way it works. So it resonates very much with people who have a procrastination issue, or people who have ADHD, which usually leads to procrastination in some level as well. And so they just immediately sort of click with it and see how it works really well for them. So I got a lot of interesting conversations with all kinds of procrastinators through Marvin, and yeah, it's just so fascinating how it is a very complex problem. Like, I think any human problem is complex because we're complex beings, and it expresses itself differently. It has different causes. It has different patterns, different solutions, even though it is always also in some ways the same. But yeah, there's so many variations and flavors of it, and that makes, you know, my work kind of interesting, because I always try to figure out new ways of how technology can solve all those issues in the best way, most efficient way for all the different people. That's kind of what I love about making Marvin.
And I can tell you, Christina, it's working. I'm a big avoidant of a task I don't want to do, which eventually I will do. My most dangerous tasks are the ones that don't have a due date. And when they have a due date, I do them usually the day before. I'm bad as that. But the one without due dates is like, I procrastinate. It's like, I don't have time to do this. I have more urgent stuff. And maybe there are even important stuff that will make my life better or my business better. Like, I have some
Right.
stuff I want to do to make my business grow, but I have so many tasks that I still have to do that. And it's all about procrastination. It's like, oh, I don't feel like doing it and stuff. But in your book, you say, and I confirm as a therapist, you must do the things even when you don't feel like doing them.
Yeah, yeah,
Then you create
that's a great point. Yeah, that's a really good point, because it is there's been many people who have been putting procrastination in some kind of equation of like, what are the factors that are playing against each other, and it is always about how much effort do you have to expend, or how many negative feelings do you have to go through to do a task, and what's the upside of it, right? Because if there's no upside, why do a task at all? Like, there's always some kind of pressure of on both sides, and ultimately it is this equation of what wins out. And when you say a task with a deadline, that's what a lot of procrastinators, they do end up doing things maybe last minute, you know, like the classic example of a student who has a test or a paper to write, and there the pressure just becomes so large of the fear of not doing it, that it kind of overrides the uncomfortableness of starting, or the fear of associated with doing it, you know, like perfectionism, or what if I can't do a good job. But when you don't have a deadline, that falls away, and that for often people is sort of the other force that pushes them to do it. But as an entrepreneur, you kind of don't have deadlines on most of your tasks. It's totally up to you, like you said, to just do something to improve your business. And that makes it in some ways very challenging, because you can just make that habit deeper and deeper, because there's a benefit of doing a task that you're kind of uncomfortable with, even if you're just doing it because there's a deadline looming. In the end, you will still have that experience of, okay, it wasn't actually as bad as I thought, or I got it done. And then you have that positive experience for next time. But yeah, as an entrepreneur who could definitely go down that path of just not doing a lot of things for years and years and years. And that's been something that it's been my experience too. There's some things that I just push off more because I enjoy them less, like marketing. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a great entrepreneur, far from it. I think, yeah, because it is hard when you're a procrastinator and you fall into that trap, and then you just end up doing the things more and more that you enjoy. And you know, there's an upside. Like, I think with Marvin is in some ways good, because I have that tendency, because I spend so much time on the product, not on the marketing. But yeah, for the business, it's not great to neglect marketing, for example. So that's that, yeah, that issue when you don't have deadlines that many entrepreneurs will really familiar with. But the same with, you know, other things. Like, sometimes we just focus on procrastination in terms of our work, but what about taking care of our health, or doing something really fun for ourselves, or connecting with people, or just a hobby, or getting to know new people? Like, there's so many things that we push off in our life that maybe some people aren't even thinking of as to-dos or procrastination, but it's the same mechanism there. It's sometimes we just delay our dreams and our lives because we have the same issues of, well, it's new, it takes a lot more energy, we have to do something different, and that's just too much of a hurdle, so we never do it. And that I think is also a very scary type of procrastination, when you just, yeah, delay your dreams and fun things in life.
Yes, yes, and something I feel a lot with. That's why I have to 8 to-do apps on my phone, because I will start with the enthusiasm, but then the list gets longer and longer, and
Yeah.
it overwhelming. And so I'm like, let's start afresh, and then I will keep going once a week to the old app to see if anything is urgent to do, but it's always overwhelming. Instead, with Amazing Marvin, it's easy to move stuff around, and you have one tool that I love. Well, actually, I have many tools which we can talk about later. But the back burner, and it's so cute. You can put all the things that are not urgent.
Yeah.
You just put them there, so they're not in your inbox. They're not in your to do in your day page. And also, I love the jar. Basically, explain what the jar is.
So it's just a fishbowl, and you can put all of your tasks in a list in there and just click on it and get one of it out randomly. So it's just as if you did that physically with little papers, and just threw all of them in a glass jar and just pulled one out at random. Um, yeah, that's a very popular strategy, because it takes care of this analysis paralysis that sometimes you know, when humans have to make decisions, it's always a point where you could start to struggle, because you want to make a decision that's based on some kind of logic. And when you have 20 tasks to do, and you've like, okay, so where do I start? What do I do first? Sometimes there's no good answer where to start, but we can still get stuck on that because we feel like, well, I have to somehow figure out what the best task is to start on. There must be some reason. At least my brain really works like that, and it just sometimes keeps me in a loop where I just, you know, try to figure out a plan forever and ever and ever, when actually it really just doesn't matter, and or it's just too complex of a solution to get to. And so these random things can just help with that, to still feel like you're doing something to get a task out, but it truly shows you, well, it's random and it's okay.
Yes, and
there's no good end.
if you really, and basically the jar is the task of the day, and if you really don't want to do that right now, you can always put it back, but you can't keep cheating, no? But at least the day is clean because everything is in the jar. You click the jar. It's so beautiful, this app, guys. You must try this, and it's so customizable. That is amazing. But tell me, Christina, in your old research and studies, how would you describe procrastination?
So procrastination is, yeah, when you delay an action for no good reason, basically. Like sometimes we delay something because, you know, it's raining, we can't do that thing outside. But it's just a delay that hasn't a good reason other than you just don't feel like doing it. And sometimes, of course, we come up with excuses, but it is, the core of it is an emotional regulation problem. There's Timothy, I forgot his name now. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
think
there's
you
a
mentioned his book.
Pickle. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it, I guess. Pickle. But he's a researcher on procrastination, and he always talks about how it's an emotional regulation problem. And that is really, really true, because you have some kind of negative emotions associated with doing the task, and it's hard for you to overcome that. And some people are very aware of that, like they think about the task and they get a feeling of anxiety in their stomach, and they're physically even aware of it. And but other people are maybe have a habit that they've built where they just sort of push things off and they don't even think about it. So they might not be aware of, okay, there are some negative feelings I have around doing this task, and that's why I push it off. But yeah, so procrastination is an emotional regulation problem. It's delaying something because you don't feel like doing it. Um, and it is kind of this gap between an intention that you have of what actions you want to take, and then not doing it, or not being able to do it. Is sort of this gap between the intention and the actual action. Yeah, and it's I would also describe it as mostly a habit, because some people ask me, well, are there some people that are just born procrastinators. Is it, what is it? And it is a habit. It's almost a very natural thing for humans to occur, because it is just you know, a result of our biology of we always trying to optimize for survival. And we have sort of these different brain parts that have different agendas. And there's something that's always thinking about, well, this action is going to take energy, and energy is something that, we have to kind of preserve, because for most of our evolution, there wasn't tons of food always. So we have to think about, okay, how much energy will this action take me? And what is the possible benefit I get from it? Is that worth it? Or what's the risk? Like if you're gonna, do something really dangerous to get a little bit of food, maybe then you wouldn't do it. And our world now has just so many actions that are very abstract in a way. This idea of writing a blog post and then it will get you money and the money will get you food. It's this natural reward of food and pleasure is sometimes really far removed. And so then you're standing in front of the blog post and all you feel is maybe fear, because you're like, what if I'm not good enough? What if nobody likes it? And then, I'm going to put so much energy into it and maybe it's not even going to get me anything useful. And it's, and this reward of, what a blog post gets you is just so unnatural in a way. And so it's just I think something that is really common in our society because of that, because we still have that ancient brain power, but our society just tells us to do things that are quite unnatural in a way. And we're also driven, by these goals, abstract goals. And then we have all this input from our upbringing of, oh, it's important to be good, or, so many unhealthy patterns that we learned from our childhood and society. And it just creates this mess. And I think procrastination really is a very natural thing for a human to do. And some people then just go down a bad spiral. Some people are more prone to get into that habit for sure. I think if you've had any kind of emotional trauma, difficult childhood, it just sets you up for procrastination as well, because it's the more easily you can feel negative emotions, right? The more likely you're going to have procrastination, because the more things might trigger negative emotions that you do. And the more skills you have, of course, to regulate yourself and your emotions, the less procrastination you will have to. But that, I think, as a therapist, you'll probably know all about that. It's not easy nowadays to just feel good and comfortable and confident and happy, and it's just so many opportunities for negative emotions, and then you get procrastination most likely.
Yes, and as humans, our mind doesn't want us to be happy. The role of our mind is to keep us alive. So the happiness is something that we can work as a habit, and it comes and goes, because all emotions comes and go. Thanks God, also the negative emotions come and go. But as you said, it's we are wired to stay in what's familiar. So doing the task that make us feel inadequate or might trigger our insecurity, like you said, blog posts, which is very interesting. I never saw it like that. Like blog posts will bring money, so brings food, and it's scary because it's like, I never thought about that. But yeah, because it's everything that is unfamiliar, or simply because maybe it's boring,
right,
might trigger things that, I really don't want to do this. I will, or the biggest lie ever, I tell myself 2 lies often. I will remember, no problem. I don't need to write it down. I'll remember. And I will do it when I feel like doing it. Which is never.
Yeah, and especially if you have tried to do it and then you're like, well, I don't feel like it now, and then you push it off, you reward that behavior. So it's like your brain, your ancient brain, just thought, oh, this is a bad task, I don't want to do it. And then you're like, yes, we're not going to do it, so we're going to do something that makes us feel better than that. And then you kind of rewarded that avoidance behavior. So the next time it's just going to be even harder, because your brain's like, wait a minute, last time we avoided this task and it was better when we avoided it because then we did something fun. So I'm going to do the same thing this time too. So yeah, it's just good. And I think many people know this too, that there's sometimes tasks that are just so bad because you've pushed them off for so long. And then you think about it like, wait a minute, why am I literally scared to death about this task when it's actually nothing? And it's like, oh, because I've just somehow pushed it off. And then every time it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So this is something that I'm working on right now, a new feature for Marvin that I'm pretty excited about. But it's actually a really hard feature for me to make because of my own procrastination. And it's called Procrastination Wizard. And it's just, you can click on something when you notice that you want to do it, but you have resistance, which is already the first challenge, to actually just be aware of that. And then click the button. And then Marvin walks you through it, and he'll ask you certain things to reflect on that task. So he will ask, so do you have negative emotions around the task? And you might say, no, I just don't feel like doing it. Or you say, yes, I have really a lot of negative emotions, because sometimes you are aware of it. And then it asks your next question. So what is so bad about this task? And then you're like, well, it's boring, or it's difficult, or I just don't know how to do it. But it makes you reflect on it. And that's already really important. But then there will also, at some point, Marvin will come in with some solutions like, well, why don't you try this? Or how about this? Or have this, think about this. And so it's obviously really difficult to make this, because I'm always like trying to think about everything, which is not really possible. And I'm always like thinking, well, what's the right order? Which question should come first? And what if they have something that I don't have? And it's like, it's really hard for me to make it. But I know that this will be helpful. And I think, yeah, it's just a cool feature that I really want to get in, Marvin. But
yeah, and as you said, done is better than perfectly thought. Well, something like this. It was in those lines.
That should be my main mantra, and it's just so hard.
Talking about mantras, I love that your app, you can put mantras and you can type your own ones. And actually, I'm going to write this one about done is better than perfectly thought.
And that should be the only one I have, just that every day.
Yeah, but as I said, we are humans, and sometimes the tasks are daunting because they are so big. But in your ebook, you suggest to chunk tasks that are not longer than 1 hour. If something is longer than 1 hour, you should do more tasks and then put them in a project. And that's much lighter to think about. Oh, this task is going to take me 5-10 minutes. And honestly, as I agree with you totally, it's like sometimes the task is so daunting, and in your app there is a Pomodoro timer, and what's it called in English, the one that you turn?
The sand clock timer.
The sand clock. You can pick which one you want. And so I'm like, now I'm going to do 25 minutes, and I will stop at the 25 minutes, but at least I will start this task. Yeah. And then usually two things happen. Very interesting. I either ignore the 25 minutes and I keep going, I'm in a roll, or it takes 10 minutes to do it. It's like, why? It's like, what did I do? Why did I procrastinate it so long?
That's really funny. That's one of the best, I think, strategies. So that's also the one I think Marvin suggests first, is you have to first make sure that it's actually an action and not just a project. That's why Marvin has very clear distinction between actions, and they have a checkbox because it's something that you can sit down on and then do and then check it off, or projects, which are anything that's sort of multiple steps. And some people feel like, we get a lot of feedback sometimes from people, well, why didn't you just make it so that it's just a task and you can break it down and you can break it down more and break it down more? Why is there this project and this task? But it is psychologically so that you become aware. There's a difference. There are certain things that are action steps, like you can sit down and do it at once, and some things that are just collections of steps, and they should not have a checkbox, because it's not something that, because when you have that checkbox, it should be something that you can get to pretty quickly. You know what I mean? Because that's like the favorite part of everybody, just actually doing the check off. Yes. And so the project shouldn't even tempt you with that, because that's not the goal there. There's just going to take some time, and you can get tasks inside of it. So that's kind of like why we have that distinction there. And yeah, so often we just don't even have a good task in front of us. It's just a mountain of tasks, and then of course nobody wants to go do it. And that's the first step. Yeah, just make sure it's clear, it's actionable, it's pretty short. 30 minutes is a really good task length. And then see if you still struggle with it. And then you can get into the emotions. But sometimes, often, that's already resolving the hurdle for many people when they start breaking it down. And then when you try to break it down, you sometimes also realize why you're procrastinating it. Because maybe you don't even know what the first step is, you just don't know yet actually what to do. But that is already engaging with the task. If you think about it, like if you have a task or a project called, make that ebook, and then, what is the first step? And if I can't even think of that, then I have to think of it. And then technically I'm already doing the task, right? Because that's part of doing the project. So it's a bit, I guess a sneaky way of getting you to get started on a project by just defining the first step. And then it just goes from there.
Yes, and it's been scientifically proven that ticking off things, either with the pen, striking them off, or on the app. I love it. Sometimes I just swipe the things from the app instead of from the computer, so I can get it.
So
that
funny.
releases dopamine. So I love to be addicted to that kind of dopamine instead of checking Twitter, that sometimes gets overwhelming, or rabbit hole. Like, I will just check Twitter for 5 minutes. 3 hours later, it's like, what time is it? I'm hungry.
Yes.
That's a positive dopamine. It's like, I've done something.
We do try to make it have more dopamine. So it's like using stuff from games, like a sound, or we're going to add some visual effects. The projects have a visual effect, like this confetti that explodes. But
I love that.
We could also add that for tasks. Why not? But the dopamine thing, like you're competing against a lot of really easy dopamine releasers. Like you said, social media. It's just that, of course, takes so little energy to scroll, and you get so much dopamine. And a task, there's always more involved. So that is ultimately what we're competing with, and that is important to be aware of. It's like, of course, your brain would always rather get dopamine when it has to do nothing. It's like free food, rather than checking off tasks. So it's maybe don't tell your brain that even exists, and try to get away from that, because it's just going to make everything harder to do in life.
Yes, and one feature I love, and also at some point show us Marvin and the inspiration on why you call it Amazing Marvin. But a part of Marvin that is super cute is this puppet that runs, and it's super cute. I'm a full-grown adult, but I am trying to connect more with my inner child, because we are all playful inside. But one of the features I love about your app is the frog. Explain more about the frog. It's so cute.
So that was one of the earliest features we had, and it's inspired by Brian Tracy's Eat the Frog book. And I guess it was Mark Twain who talked about eating the frog first. So anybody who's not familiar with this expression and strategy, it's just, if you eat your frog first thing in the morning or first time of your day, then everything else will feel easy if you eat a frog. And a frog is a task that is something that's not super pleasant, but it's also something that's kind of important for you to do. So you can mark tasks as frog tasks, and then to remind you to just try to get those done first. And it's just this little visual frog that you can put on a task and I think there's also a reminder that can remind you every day, hey, let's pick a frog from your list for today and do that first. It's very simple, but it's very effective for a lot of people. And I also use the frogs just to mark things that I kind of dread doing. And later on, when Marvin becomes smarter, so that's kind of where we're going with it, that Marvin is constantly sort of analyzing what you're doing and what tasks you have open, and then trying to help you sort of as a coach throughout your day. And that's just an important bit of information that we can gather through the frog strategy about which tasks are frogs, how often have you put the frogs off, how many frogs do you have, in what areas do you have frogs. So it's all part of just that data gathering for the intelligence part that comes later. Yeah, because that's an important data point of a task, is like, how much do you dread it? That's a good data point to have.
Yes, and studies of successful people have noticed a pattern. Successful people do what they don't want to do first. And it's not maybe they don't love to do the things they have to do, but they just do it. So it's out of the way. So my aim is to get one frog every morning and get it out of the way. But yes, super cute, because you get the reminder, the frog comes out of a screen. And if you don't want the frog, you can always have without it, but it's so cute and fun. So
Yeah.
have the frog on your dashboard. It comes out as like, click a frog, and then you can pick which one you want to work on, which is great. And yes,
Yeah.
it creates that thing as like, do it even if you don't feel like, and start the day with it, so it's better. And then there you go with easier tasks, things that you find pleasant.
It is very effective for so many reasons, because I think when you have that frog open, it's just constantly thinking about it, and it's just lowering your emotions. You're just always dreading it, and it gives, on the upside, when you do it, it just, everything feels easier afterwards, because the hard part is already done. You feel accomplished. It just sort of gives you positive emotions, and that's something that we neglect. When you have positive emotions, you are going to be more productive, and with negative emotions, it is really hard to be productive. And it can, so in some ways, like, you know, people, they always try to figure out ways of how to measure productivity and make it have these tips and tricks. But I think using your emotions just as a guide of how you're doing is how I would suggest going about finding a good workflow, because anything that makes you feel good is going to make you more productive as well. It sort of goes hand in hand. And I think in some ways it's a more kind way to go about the problem, when you're always just trying to optimize for your own well-being. Because when you try to focus on just productivity as this hard metric, you can very easily start to do a lot of damage, where you become extremely hard on yourself, you become critical with yourself, you become unhappy, disappointed, and then you just make it worse. Then you just going to feel worse. Everything has more at stake now, because you're scared of yourself being mad at yourself, you know, subconsciously. And then it's going to be even harder to do anything. And so it's this negative feedback. And when you just try to focus on what feels good, you're naturally going to move into doing things, and especially doing the right things as well for you. Because sometimes when you try to focus on what feels good, you may be also realizing, oh my God, I'm in the wrong job, or I'm doing this habit not for me, for someone else, and it doesn't even make me feel good. I don't even want to do this anymore. And so I think that's just just always use that as a guide of what makes you feel good. And that's gonna, it's simple, but it's gonna get you everything you want.
Yes.
Because that's ultimately why we're doing things in the first place, right? Because we want to feel good, and we want to feel good in the future, and be able to have freedom, or be able to do things. And why not focus on it now? Because that's exactly what's going to get you there. So yeah, if you don't like a strategy because it stresses you out, or a workflow that stresses you out, then it's probably not right for you. And there's a whole course that I'm working on that just teaches you that process of how do you find a process of how to deal with your tasks that works for you, that makes you feel good. Because like you said, the day thing, having a daily list, that is the default in Marvin. That's like one of the workflows that we have checked on. And
that one.
but it doesn't work for everybody. Like some people, it makes them feel bad, to work like that. So you got to figure out what makes you feel good and what makes you feel motivated and happy.
Yes, and something super amazing about the dashboard is, like with Amazing Marvin, you can, if you come from Todoist or Things Tree or Tick Tick, there are few you can mimic. So if you come from one of these apps, maybe at the beginning you would like to have something that looks similar, and they're not affiliated in any way with this company. They just mimic the homepage, so you can look at something that's familiar, and then with time you change it. I always found Things Tree was gorgeous, but they're not on Android, so I was a bit frustrated because I also have an Android as a phone and iPhone. So I was like, oh. And so I started with Things Tree as a dashboard, as a mimic thingy. But then I went on Marvin, which is much more cuter. And I have the sun, and I can, when you click on the sun on the calendar, it says plan your day, and then you can just plan your day. It's super cute. But tell us, how did you come up with the name Marvin, and who or what was your inspiration?
Yes. So we get a lot of slack for the name sometimes. Some people like, it has a really weird name, but it makes us stand out because it's definitely different. And the reason behind it is that the first vision I had is that you have a to-do app that has this built-in coach that talks to you. Because that was always my dream, to just have someone who's like, hey, how are you this morning? What do you want to work on? And, oh, you feel upset. Okay, let's do this. And just someone there to help you get through the day. And then, of course, it needed some kind of character to interact with you. And I had to just come up with a character. So I just drew him, and I just looked at him and was like, oh, this is like you would name a baby. And I was like, he's a Marvin. He's going to be Marvin. And then the app was called Amazing Marvin because Marvin, of course, Marvin.com, you can't get that name. So we just needed to use another word with it. And I think it just sounded a bit like a superhero, and it's just kind of funny. Like, also calling yourself amazing, of course, is kind of
yes,
like, we don't take it too seriously.
No, I love it. In fact, I struggle to call it Marvin because I love Amazing Marvin. I love so as Marvin.
Yeah, we do call it just Marvin, but I think it just makes it seem like not just this software that's cold and just code, but it makes it seem like that there's some kind of heart behind it, like some kind of living thing. And that's ultimately the direction we're trying to go in, that it feels like that when you're using the app, that there's something that cares about you, that cares that you're doing your stuff for you, and that you can feel better and feel good about your life. And that's sort of it's just that is a personal warm thing. And with technology, and that's what I find interesting about technology, is exploring that area of making it more human, because that's, I think, the heart of why we're not productive. We have to approach it from a human side, a human problem, not just we can just throw some bits at you and it's going to make you more productive. Like, a lot of apps already do that. I mean, there's totally a great reason to use an app just as an external data storage, like an extension of your brain, a way to have a visual representation of things in your head so that you can move them around. And that's what so many apps do brilliantly, and that there's already so much value in that, no doubt. But I just try to take it one notch further for just people who also need some kind of human element of help with their emotions.
Me.
And that's why it has a name, and it's a living thing. So that's kind of, but Marvin doesn't yet do that. Not to give anybody the wrong impression, Marvin isn't super smart yet in that he interacts with you or he talks to you. I tried to do that first, and it was a never-ending story. I just went down a rabbit hole that was so deep, and my husband was so frustrated. He's like, we're never going to launch this. This is going to take you years. It's never going to come out. Let's just do something simple for us to get it out so we can get feedback. And I was like, no, it has to be perfect. But then we did it. And now I feel like I'm moving more in that direction again, of having Marvin talk to you and stuff. Finally, I feel like a lot of the basics are done. And so, so that's so stay tuned. Maybe this year Marvin will talk to you.
That's amazing. But till then, it's already amazing as it is. It's super cool. Do you have Marvin handy? Do you have it somewhere there with you that you can show us? Yay! It's so cute.
Yeah, he's kind of like a pillow. We do get a lot of requests for Marvin plushies or figures, and maybe at some point we'll have a little store where you can have a little Marvin that reminds you.
opens, I'm going to get him, and also reminders, because it's like it connects with our inner child, and we are all a bit children. Something
Mm-hmm.
very interesting you said before is it was about also in your ebook you mentioned the reward, and you have ways to put a task that is all colored around, so you know when you do the task you deserve a reward, and you
Mm-hmm.
should write down the reward or have something that once you do the task you deserve that reward. It can be even playing a video game or go on Instagram or doing something that is unproductive.
Mm-hmm.
And also I love the fact that I never thought about it, to plan your unproductive time. What's it called, the
Mm-hmm.
chapter scheduling waste time.
Yes,
That's
there's a good
powerful
study
as
around
well.
that. Yeah, that's a strategy that is not very well known, but if you, I think they did a study with students and they had to schedule 2 hours of browsing the internet into their day and that they had to stick to it. And they wanted to see if that makes them more productive. Um, and it did. It made them a lot more productive. And I think it makes a lot of sense because that's usually behavior that we do sort of in a guilty way because we know we're supposed to do something else that's maybe more important, but then we do that. But when you have scheduled time, you first of all you know that you know you're going to get that anyway, and then you feel even weirder if you do it outside of that time. But it also makes you realize that now you have only a certain time available to actually get your work done because it's already blocked out for the time wasting activity. And so sometimes that is also an important part of just because when you procrastinating it, we can get into this feeling of, well, there's so much more time later in the day, there's so much more time tomorrow, next week, like you just always feel like there's so much more time, so it doesn't really matter if you push it off. But when you make a plan where you block things out and you see, oh well, here I'm sleeping, here I'm eating, and here, I do my Facebook browsing or my internet browsing, all of a sudden you have like, well, there's only like 4 or 5 hours left for me to do the stuff that I also want to do. And then it becomes a bit more urgent as well. So you get that urgency that can help put the equation into the right balance. But yeah, it's a very effective strategy to schedule time wasting into your day.
I never thought about that, because actually when I do waste time there is a sense of guilt, you know, you should be doing
Mm-hmm.
something else but you just need to vent, and sometimes we are less productive. But if you have it scheduled, and as you said, the students were asked to stick to it, after a while you get
Mm-hmm.
bored and it's like an hour and a half
Yes.
on the internet, and I was like, oh, I need to spend another half an hour, but at least you get it out of the system.
Right. Right.
And so I think it's very powerful. I'm going to try that too, that thingy. And also something that I never thought is to put in the calendar, because on Marvin you can put blocks in your calendar so you see what's going where.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought to put also sleeping time. So at
Mm-hmm.
least if I have a sleeping time color, the working time, and this and that, I will see how much space I have left.
Right. Yeah.
That's a very great idea. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. That's an exercise you could also just do, like, once, where you just block out your week and figure out how much time do you even have, just to make it more valuable, make it more precious resource, because time is a very precious resource. We don't have endless time, and it is a very precious resource. So to become more mindful of how much time we have and how we want to allocate it. So with time blocking, that's a strategy we have in Marvin. You can block out time in your calendar, not for specific tasks and projects. That's something some people like to do, but it's more just for general areas. So I use that a lot because as an entrepreneur, I think you have often so many different areas where you need to get work done, and you need to have some kind of balance. But everybody has that issue of like life balance, like, well, how much time do I want to spend on social interactions or fun and versus my hobbies, and so you can block out, say, here Monday morning I'm doing marketing, then Monday afternoon I'm doing admin stuff, and then Tuesday morning I do content, and then Tuesday afternoon I do product programming. And it also, gives you sort of more guidance on what you do when. Um, and again, it helps with this, you know already, okay, I have about 8 hours a day or 8 hours a week to work on the actual programming. So it makes it just seem more precious and more like, well, I better do it then, because otherwise I'm not going to have time for it. Um, and so it has many advantages to do the time blocking, even just as an exercise, like to see how much time you have or how you want to allocate it to the more you like engage with those kinds of questions, it's only good things are going to come from it, because it's just not something we're taught to do, you know, like to really think about our life with that much intention. And just, yeah, it's just like an exercise to go there and start thinking about these things instead of just being stuck in some kind of routine that you somehow slid into, some way of living. So it's important to engage with that and just, yeah, be intentional, or try to be intentional about it.
Yes, because the thing I've noticed with Marvin, it's a very pleasant app, and it's full of things you can play around. And anybody who has a child or a dog will understand that they work well, they learn faster with a reward, positive enforcement, no? And we are not that far. Like, I work much better if I know I'm going to go and have a walk in the forest, rather than I need to do, I don't know, clean the bathroom at the end of my working day. One way I will feel more motivated rather than the other option. And in Marvin, you can play, like you can set an estimate time to do a task that you think is going to take, and then there is a very cool stuff that you can beat that timing that you set. So it's like, it's, you can make it fun, and Marvin helps you to become more disciplined, but without feeling daunted, no? I
Yeah,
find
that's
up
that's go ahead, sorry.
no, I find it's the best app I ever tried, because, for example, another powerful one I used in the past, Todoist, is great, but it's very plain and engineerish, and too white, and too, I don't know, it's, instead Marvin is all colors, you can pick the labels, you can write the text in so many, it's super customizable, and so it makes everything more pleasant.
Yeah, that's exactly what we try to make it like your home, you know, like so you can customize it. Look, it's a double-edged sword, because some people feel overwhelmed, like, oh, there's so many options. But we just want you to have something that you enjoy looking at it, because it's going to make it easier to look at if you like looking at it. Again, these positive emotions, and we're going to try to make it a little bit fun, because some tasks aren't fun and there's no way going around it. And maybe you could engage with it in a way that's fun, like with like you said, the beat the clock, so it's a bit like a game. Then it's just reminding you of all the tools you have available to make your life more interesting and more fun. And the reward thing, like, often we don't even think to reward ourselves for stuff anymore. We feel like that's, you know, like you said, for dogs or for children, but we work the same way. And even we don't even give ourselves sometimes the mental reward of patting ourselves on the shoulder and saying, well done, you've just done a test. No, we do it and immediately think about the next thing we have to do. And it's just, it's so important how we treat ourselves, because and many of us, I think, are horrible parents to ourselves, horrible bosses to ourselves. And that's how we have to look at the relationship with ourselves. Like, you are in some ways your parent, your boss, your mentor, that's all inside of you. So how are you treating yourself? Are you like praising yourself when you get something done, when you do something good? Are you rewarding yourself guilt-free, allowing yourself to have that stuff? And so many of us are just like there with a whip and you know, just saying you're not good enough, do more. It's like, how you expect to perform well under those circumstances? And I hope, you know, to have it sort of externalized in a software, that it's just easier for us to treat ourselves nicely and remember, like, oh, there's a reward. That is something maybe I should give myself sometimes. Or I feel like there's so much more stuff like to be built in. Like when like now I'm trying to do this thing where when you check off a task, that there is a reminder. Like Marvin will tell you what you should tell yourself. Like, great job. You know, you just
Love it.
got one step ahead. You just did one thing. Like, it's just this little thing, but I think it's like, you know, as a therapist, like repetition is very important for the subconscious mind, and like the input you get, like you have probably gotten a really lot of junk input from your upbringing, from society, and we need something to counter that, like showing you how you can be nice to yourself and how you can give good input that brings you further ahead in life. So I hope that yeah, Marvin can be a part of that, and that's because yeah, who doesn't need that? I don't know. I it's just not easy being a human these days.
I agree.
Oh, it's never been easy, but I don't know. Yeah, it makes me happy that you to hear your experience of how you see Marvin, and that all these things that we try to do, it's working, like that you feeling that when you're using it and you're appreciating these aspects of it. Because again, like I'm a terrible boss for myself, and I always just think about all the things it doesn't have yet, all the things that aren't great yet, all the things I still want to do and I haven't done, and I just forget all the stuff it has because I'm so used to it, and I don't even use a lot of that stuff. But then when you tell me, I'm reminded. It's like, oh yeah, it has all these things.
Yes,
They are very nice.
it's super customizable. I don't know how much time consuming must be to create all this stuff, but the results are stunning. Another thing I love, I'm a huge fan, as people are listening might have guessed by now. In fact, I'm so honored that you are here in this interview with me, because I'm so enthusiastic about this product and I want to shout it to the world. People, try it out. Maybe it's not for you, but I think it's for a lot of us. And one other thing I love is the matrix, because I have read a lot about how to be more productive, how to beat procrastination, and this matrix, I've seen it many times. And I tried to make it work for me many times. Urgent and important, urgent but not important, important but not urgent, delegate or cancel. And I was like, that makes sense. But for me, my to-do list, everything looks urgent, everything looks important, when it's not, because so many things have exclamation marks. Because another thing of Marvin, you can see for how long you have procrastinated. You can have exclamation marks if you want, and I have on some, I have like probably 20, and then I decided to put the number, so I have like 7 exclamation marks, and some I have 192 days exclamation mark. This is how, when was the first time I opened Amazing Marvin. So some tasks I'm still procrastinating, so they're not urgent, and that way never made sense to me. But you have an amazing option where you can put the few things you want to do today, the one that will be great if you do them today. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Option.
and then like bonus tasks and
I changed bonus to frogs, so I can see. And frogs, you can put up to limit to 1. So I like to have one tasks. So I have 4 tasks that I have to do every day. Well, one will be great if you do it, but that makes much more sense to me. It's like,
right.
This I have right to do it today because tomorrow I have that one. This, if I do it, thumbs up. So finally, a matrix that works for me, and you can personalize the colors. I put pink, light blue, orange, instead of red, blue, and so it's super cute.
That is awesome. You should share how you're using your matrix in the community, because I think there's some people like you who go right into it and like try many different things and reflect. I think that might also be because you're a therapist, like you're reflecting. Oh, this makes me feel good. This works for me, and you have like a lot of tools in your toolbox. But for some people, it's just like they don't even know where to start. They just see all these features, but they don't know what to do with it. So this inspiration part, I feel like people are quite shy in sharing their setups for some reason, and I've been thinking about why that is. And maybe I think a lot of people feel intimidated by it. They feel like there's just some super users who just know everything about Marvin, or maybe they feel like there's a certain way you're supposed to use it, and then, well, I'm just kind of using it in a funny way or in a funky way, and they don't want to share it. But that's like whole point. Like there's no right or wrong way to use it. Like that's why it's so flexible. But there's definitely there's not enough sharing of like people sharing their setup. There's even a feature where you can blur out all your tasks so that you can share screenshots without sharing your information. So we added that so that people could share and send bug fixes and bug problems and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. We need the people to share more. So somebody needs to start it then.
I will happy to do
Hopefully,
that.
that would be great.
I'm so enthusiastic about your product. I love it. My flatmate can't stand anymore of me. Like, are you
Oh,
Marvin? I'm not in Twitter anymore. Are you Marvin? I'm like, yeah, amazing
no.
Marvin. I'm like, it's like, oh my
That's
gosh. And I also managed to make him download it, and he's
nice.
playing around with it, but he hasn't fallen in love with it yet. So he's like, yeah, it
Yeah,
looks beautiful and everything, but he's not very patient with the strategies and stuff to make it customizable.
right.
Let me see. There was something I wanted to ask you. Like, how long have you been working on this? Because it's super
Mm.
sophisticated and it must have taken a lot of years. Or
Yes. So the idea was beginning of 2015, and I had a different business. That's when I first had the idea. So I just worked on it as a side project for myself. But then in 2016, we decided to do this as a business, and then we rewrote the whole code. So there was like a whole other Marvin that had different features first. And then I got really sick. I couldn't work for a year. And so we launched in 2017. So Marvin has now been out for 3 years. And that's where most of the work got done. A lot of the extra features, like you can actually see on our website all the launches we had and which features came when. But so my husband and I were the programmers. And because I also do marketing and I did support for a long time, he was always just doing the program, but he had a full-time job always. So only the beginning of this year was he able to quit his job and got on full-time. So yes, it's in some ways like a part-time project for him with the for many years, but it did take years. But if we both had been full-time and we had maybe some employees or stuff, you could definitely do it much quicker. But in some ways, I think the reason why we go so fast is also because we are such a small team and you don't have like a chain of command or talk about stuff endlessly. Like I just kind of decide how I want the feature to work, the look, and we just all sort of do it all at once, like programming and deciding. Like there's not like the strict process of, oh, we need wireframes first and then this and then that. And yeah, we just kind of wing it a lot of times. So that helps with the speed. But I think a big company, they could never do it like that. It's just not how stuff is done. But yeah, it's taken years, a lot of sweat and tears, and
but
it's not easy.
I love it also because sometimes when I try a project, it's sometimes if it doesn't work, I will just abandon. Instead, you're taking care of Marvin. You're making it every day, every month better and better and better, and it's amazing. And also, the stunning thing, it's I never found to do up with your amazing customer service. Like there are plenty out there that have a good customer service, but your is even more excellent. Like the answer always when I have a question, they are very quick and it's always personalizable. You can see it's a person, and it's either you or
Mm-hmm.
Mark. Usually, I've gotten an
Mm-hmm.
answer from I think the two of you.
We have one person we hired last year, Bronco, and he's amazing. He's like our angel.
Yes, also
We
he
love him.
when I had questions, and then it's like it's super. It feels so good because you feel like you're talking to humans instead of a company that's one employee is answering you the next time another one. So it's very human, as you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is what we hope to convey, and we definitely want to stay that way. Yeah, we're very small right now. That helps. But we need to grow this year. That's kind of the focus. Like it's kind of my fault why we are so small still, because I just always feel like I can't market it yet as much as I want because it's not great yet. It's missing all these things,
No,
and
it's already great.
sometimes
No, I disagree.
it's just
I disagree. It's ready to be marketed to the world.
okay. We're gonna start with with some ads actually next week. So, and we did the AppSumo campaign, and that brought in a lot of new users. But yeah, marketing is kind of the weak point, because it's just, I don't know, I'm just not a natural marketer. But I have to, like, that's another trick in productivity. Sometimes you can reframe something, and like some ways of looking at it you will find feel better for you, and they'll feel more motivating, they feel more wholesome or in alignment with who you are. And I often now try to think of it as, there are people like you who get so much joy out of Marvin, and who love using it, and I'm like hurting those people when I'm not making sure that they know about it. Like, it's my responsibility in a way to get it out there so it can reach the people who would get so much joy from it. And I'm like withholding something from these people when I'm not. And so looking at it like that really helps me to feel like, oh my God, I have to market it. Like,
Yes.
I have to make sure the people who want it will hear about it. So it's versus like, oh, I have to sell it to people, or I have to make more money, or like, like there's so many ways of looking at marketing. Some things will just feel, I don't know, better for you or more motivating for you. So
Yeah,
that's
I
how I try
think
to think about it.
if you keep your own voice, your own authenticity, and you show up through marketing messaging with that, your product is amazing, and the right people will find it interesting. I found you through AppSumo, in fact, and at the beginning I was just playing around and I didn't get it at first. I was like, oh, this looks a bit complicated, but I remember the Marvin was so cute. And then one night I remember, can I tell you the story of how I fell in love
Yeah.
with you guys? One night I was like, I can't, I had Tick, I had the premium one, and it's great, but I had like 42 undo tasks all showing up in today. I was like, I can't, I'm Googling. If anybody invented something new, there must be a do up that I haven't tried, and or something that works for me. And I was so frustrated, and it was like 11 o'clock in the evening. And then I'm in this rabbit hole of reading all feedbacks and stuff. And this person wrote something. I can find, I took a screenshot of this, so I'm happy to
Oh,
send it to you. This
yes.
person wrote, yeah, I've tried all the one under the sun, but then I found amazing Marvin and I'm never looking back. Something like that, in those lines. And I was like, amazing Marvin. Ah, that's familiar. So I go back in my thing and I tried to Google it. It's like, ah, I knew it. It's the puppet thingy. Let me go back to that. Why does she see so raving fans? Because then, of course, I am a researcher, so I love to go into holes, rabbit holes. So I saw so many raving fans of your product, and I was like, why is everybody talking so great? I need to check that one again. So I went back on Marvin and I started to play. 10 past 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, I'm tired, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really need to go to bed. But I was so excited. I was putting, and the next day I didn't have to work because it was a weekend. But I was so full of adrenaline. It's like, finally, something that works. Da, da, da. The next day I woke up and I'm excited. I never ever happened to me. I'm usually excited when something new happens, like a new app, and I'm excited for a bit, but then it fades away. Now I can tell you, I still love the app. And I've not played around anymore with personalization because I found something that works for me. And for now, it's working. When I helped my flatmate yesterday to set up his own account, I found so many things that I didn't remember how I do them. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I think I want this one too. So I was like, oh, I can play around with it. But at the moment, it's working. It's making me more productive. I'm still procrastinating because if you invent a to-do app that will do things for you, you can become the richest person in the world. Marvin, do all these tasks for me. Let's get them out of my way. But that, I think, still has to be created. But whoever
Yes, I think
invents that,
any do is trying to do that, I think. But it's like, by using virtual assistants that
yeah,
will do stuff for you
yeah,
somehow.
I read
But yeah,
about it.
that's
And
difficult.
AnyDo is a good app. It's just too basic, and don't know. I still love your guys. Your product is amazing.
Thank you. Well, that's a very funny and sweet story, and I really enjoyed hearing about that. Yeah, because that's the one thing I'll never experience what it feels like to just find Marvin when you have that problem, and then how do you see it? You know, as a because I created it, and so you never get that. I don't know, but I would probably also really be happy and excited when I see it because it's obviously exactly how I want an app to be. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
because there are so
it's
many.
really great.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was done.
There are so many things that, because that's the thing I find frustrating, is like, why these apps are all great but they always have something missing, and one has a calendar, one doesn't have it, the other one is, and I was like, why they don't do something that merge everything a bit
Mm-hmm.
together? It's like, why they don't do
Yeah,
that? I guess it must be very difficult. And then I found you
yeah,
guys. It's like,
it
I
is.
have
It is difficult.
even more stuff that I thought, like, you have everything I need to be more productive, and even more. It's amazing. It's like,
But you know the we have this list of where people can request features they want and vote for features. And when you look at that, you would really think we have nothing, because I think that's the problem with to-do apps. Like, people have very high expectations for to-do apps, and because in some ways you always want things to be combined, like different tools that you use for your productivity. So you have to literally be like 10 different pieces of software in one if you want to be like this all in one. And that's as if you have 10 products. And like, we're not there yet, but we're going to add you know, habit tracking, which is a whole other area of apps. And then goals, which is something that not a lot of apps have in general, sort of like maybe more professional apps with like the OKRs and sort of objectives and stuff like that. But people do like end up just wanting something to manage their whole life, like all of their time, all of their things they have to do. And it's yeah, everything is difficult on its own, and you're just trying to do 10 apps in one. But that is what a lot of people want. A lot of people want this all-in-one app. And that, you know, there's some apps that are popular now, like Notion, that can just do so many things. But then the question is, can it do everything well? Because you like Notion, I think I like it for notes, but I don't find it a good task manager because it's not built for that. Like, you can have tasks inside a note, and maybe if they've changed it now, but you can't have sort of then different ways of looking at those tasks and have different like lists and look at them in different contexts. I think they're just always in that note. And that's what I think is the key to a good task manager, is that you have your tasks, but then you can look at them through different lenses, like show me everything that's short, or show me everything that has a high priority, or, you know, and then so you can create these different views. But yeah, it's hard to be good at everything. And
and you don't
so
need to be. I believe that we need to excel on what we are good at. I've tried Notion and Choir, which are great. They're just
mm-hmm,
not intuitive. I find them very complicated, especially Notion.
mm-hmm,
And also it looks too cluttered. Again, I feel overwhelmed because there is so much
mm-hmm,
stuff. There are no colors and stuff. So I found my perfect balance.
mm-hmm.
I'm a very visual person. So I like to use Trello because I can save cards and stuff. And whenever I find something on the website I save it on Trello. And then
Yeah.
all my to-do apps, all my to-do list is only on Marvin. That's when I do the things that I don't want to do. That's my to-do things.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is on Trello. But at least now I have only those two. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
calendars up or to-do apps. Blah, blah, blah. They're all, those are all are gone forever. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, so, and I think you guys are so good to do this. Just keep sticking to as it is. Yeah, I love the goals and stuff. That would be very cool. But I believe that when we excel in something, we should just do that, because if
Mm-hmm.
it becomes too big, then I have noticed whenever I try to get to on so many projects, or in your case, I guess it's softwares, then it becomes a bit overwhelming and complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
for me, and for many, because even people who have been writing reviews on AppSumo and on the internet, you have all raving fans. So your product is amazing and deserves to be shared with the world. Absolutely. Is ready to go, Christina.
Ready to go.
I'm going to be your frog and I'm going to pop, crack, crack. Have you done it already?
Yeah, happy. Yeah, marketing. No, I'm very excited because I think, you know, when you market and we have more users, the family gets bigger and we can do so much more with it. We can have more programmers. We can, you know, like there's so many more things that need to come out. Um, yeah, like I have so many more ideas for ebooks, and I just we just need some more help with some other stuff. So it just needs to happen. But yeah, I
Step
think
by
now
step.
it's ready.
Yes, yes. And whenever I help somebody with procrastination, and I also tell that to myself because I know understand procrastination because I am like you, procrastinator. The thing is, doing one step forward towards your goals is better than doing none. If you do even one step a day, in a year you will have done 365 steps. But some days you feel productive, so you will do 100 steps or 10 steps. So it's all about progressing. Sometimes you will
Yeah.
get pushed back, and then we keep going and we keep going, keep going. Anyways,
That is really good. I think, see, even just that, like that is a nice mantra to have. But then I always think about, because you also said you're a visual person. A lot of people, Marvin users, happy Marvin users are very visual. So I'm always trying to think about how you can make these things like represent them in a visual way, you know, like to remind yourself of that, or to get that dopamine. Like, I don't know, like what if there is maybe like a footstep or something that comes on your day when you check off a task, you know, like
some
something like
pose,
that.
pose steps.
Yes,
That's cute too, because
like that, just like you made a step forward, or like, I don't know, like just
I
I'm always trying to
love
think
it.
about visuals, like,
Oh my gosh, that's
yeah.
going to be such a great idea. And I also love the idea about the frogs that you are planning to implement. I just don't remember if we talk on the interview or you said it to me in private. Just to be sure, would you mind repeating the thing that you're planning on the frogs to have the
Yeah, so the frogs, you know, the idea is obviously you get them done first. So there should be maybe something happening when you don't do them first. And Mark had this idea that frogs start to sort of pop up on your interface, or maybe they start to make like ribbit sounds. It's just like to kind of remind you that, hey, there's a frog there that you should take care of. It's just like we get ideas like that a lot from our users as well. It's just this fun collaboration. But yeah, I don't know, we should maybe prioritize these little things more, um, because I'm telling you, like one of the biggest struggles when working on Marvin is just because people care so much and they love it so much. You get a lot of feedback, which we love, but one of the biggest struggles in the beginning was just how to manage all that feedback, because it's so overwhelming and everybody has a different issue, and sometimes it's fairly small things, but sometimes it's, you know, something that a lot of people say and sometimes only one person, and we have like thousands and thousands of suggestions for new features or improvements. And of course we want to make everybody happy, and we wish we could just like snap our fingers and get everything done, but we have to always prioritize. It's like, what do we do next? And that's definitely, yeah, we just it's a big challenge. It's like, what do you do next? What do you prioritize? It's like the ultimate prioritization challenge to have tomorrow in to-do list, because it's just thousands of things we could do. um, so yeah, Marvin is a piece of work.
but he's adorable. The
Yeah.
fact is, when I was every child, unless you're in a very traumatic situation, you wake up in the morning, you are excited. It's like a new adventure and stuff. And yeah, I noticed in the last years, like probably in the last decade, I've become more and more serious. And then I had a road accident and suffer from PTSD and depression, and
Mm.
it became so serious. And I noticed how I was living my life, thinking that everything is a hustle, everything needs to be hard and
Mm.
stuff. So now, as a full-grown woman, I'm trying to step back about that, because being an adult, and it's also to be fun. Yes, we have responsibilities, but we also need to have more fun, because
Yeah.
and who has the most fun? Our inner child, because I believe what we liked when we were kids, we still like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that you make Marvin so playful and cool. And by the way, guys, if anybody is listening to it and says, "Oh, this is a bit too childish for me," you can always switch it off. Don't worry, don't worry. You can always be serious, also Marvin. but
Yes, yes.
but I suggest you not to. It's much more fun to have it as it is.
Yeah, that's some people they did say in the beginning we only had like a colorful theme. It was like, I can't use this at work, it's too unprofessional. So now we have a lot of ways you can make it look very, very professional. um, but yeah, I agree. I think we stopped having fun, and I'm really sorry about like all the stuff that happened to you. And I can relate to it. Like I've had depression for a lot of years, starting from when I was very young, and that's like it becomes like sometimes a way of living, where you have to relearn how to be a child, especially if you had maybe a traumatic childhood as well, where you couldn't even really be a child when you were a child. That's not something that's that easy to learn. Um, but I think it's extremely important if you want to feel happy.
Yes.
I look back on a life that was enjoyable. And I think I think honestly I'm very grateful to my dad, because I mean my parents, they, like, parenting is just so hard. Like, they were far from perfect, but my dad always made like stuffed animals come to life. Like, he would always play with them, and that was in my life so helpful, because I have also this bear that I got when I was 1 years old, and he gave him sort of a personality. Like, for me, stuffed animals were always things that were like real living things in a way, and still to this day. And that's why I think I made the plush Marvin, and like everywhere I have stuffed animals. And I think that's sort of connecting still to this childlike, like for me, that's a way to connect to my inner child. And maybe that's what makes why I had this vision of Marvin, like this idea that there's a creature, and everybody enjoys cute things, like when you look at something cute, it just, I think it makes you feel happy inside, and especially when you feel like it's alive in some way. And my dad definitely helped me just see things as if they're like, if I have a stuffed animal, like, and you took it and you threw it, I would feel awful. I feel so bad for it. I'd be like, oh my God, no, it's getting hurt. Like, to me, it's just, I never lost that. I feel like these things have somehow, like, they're alive somehow. And I don't know. I think that's kind of, yeah, the same thing I hope to do with Marvin, and people start to feel like he's an actual thing that has feelings and stuff, even though, I don't know, he doesn't. But yeah, that's that makes me happy that that's how you experience Marvin, and that it can help with that. I guess I never even thought that much about, uh, yeah, that it just helps you connect with your inner child, and maybe see things in more fun. And I just always thought, oh, of course, when it's more playful, then you enjoy it more, and you're more productive. But it goes much farther than that. Maybe it also just makes you happier in your life. So that's very wonderful.
Yes, because there are some also to do apps that are beautiful and sleek with colors and stuff, but they lack in so many other things. So they focus on the beauty, or they focus on the being playful, but they have other limitations, no? But yes, it's I think one of the most overwhelming things in my phone is the to-do app, because it's a list of things that I don't write in the to-do list things that I want to do. But nowadays, to get that dopamine, it's like when I do something that was in a list, I write it down, and then
Yeah.
telling you, this gives me goosebumps. So we need the dopamine that feel good, and you made this to-do app making it look so cute and pleasant to look, and it's more like a game, as you said. So absolutely
Thank you.
amazing job, guys.
Thank you.
And I will happily show how I use it, because I'm very enthusiastic about it.
Yes.
So I'm happy to do a video to do that. And I guess, where do I share it? On the Facebook group?
Yes, that's the best place to share it.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
that would be amazing. I look forward to that.
So guys, if you have stick till now and you haven't still opened an account with Amazing Marvin, do it. With my link upstairs, I will give you an extra month for free of Amazing Marvin, and you can check it out for yourself and see if it works for you. And Christina, was truly amazing to have you here with me today. Thank you. And guys, if you have any questions or if you want to have Christina again, write to me. So I will invite her again, and hopefully she will be again our guest soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
It was truly amazing.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day, Christina, and
Thanks, you too.
up the good work and market your Marvin. He's
Yes.
good to go. The world needs to know about him, because I can tell you, I'm a nerd into do apps or this kind of stuff. I'm a big nerd, and there are many people like me that have the same frustration. And I read the reviews and the feedback. Some people are software engineers, so it's not like only because I'm a girl that's trying to get back with the inner child. It's also people super professional engineers who love your product. So it's truly for a lot of us, and it's an amazing tool that helped me to do more and be more productive. Thank
That's
you.
so great. I'll market it. I'll market it.
Yes.
Starting now.
Yes. It's ready to go. And I think I read somewhere in your ebook, perfectionism. If you wait to be ready, it's never going to happen. It's ready to be marketed. You can always sharpen up and polish the message or the marketing later. Just start. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
Some people
You're
are
right.
struggling. Where is my to-do
No!
for me?
No! That's motivation.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you're here. You're very welcome.
Really appreciate it. Now I'm happy.
Yeah, and it was truly a pleasure to work to talk with you today, because you have this beautiful energy. You have done an amazing product, and so guys, try it out. Try it out. Try it out. Thank you
Thank
again,
you.
Christina.
Thank you
See
so
you
much.
soon, hopefully. Ciao.
Okay, bye.